Chelsea 3 and Aston Villa 0. 3 and easy for Chelsea. Was this, for those who didn't watch, a case of Chelsea that good, Villa that bad, or a bit of both? What do you reckon?
Why do we always have to answer? It's a little bit of both, right? Although, I mean, given what Villa has done up until now, that's now, 8 games without a win for them. So certainly Villa in a bit of trouble, unable, it seems, to deal with Premier League and Europe. That's one of the issues. Maybe we'll get to them earlier. But it's all about Chelsea for me, right? Clear message from Enzo Maresca and Chelsea Football Club that we are coming, we are building, and we are improving. And by the way, you know, we're going to contend for the title perhaps next year. But if anybody slips up, we're here. We're young, but very, very hungry. Mm-hmm. That seems to be the message for a long period of time right now. So I think part of that message is also don't take us for granted, because every week we sort of kind of almost afraid to say, are they here, you know, for the right reasons yet? Are they ready for all of that? And of course, Liverpool and Manchester City will tell us a lot. But you look at this Chelsea Football Club, and they're quietly becoming a major force in the Premier League.
Absolutely identical records with Arsenal. So just behind them on alphabetical order. Obviously, at the end of the season, they'll bring into play various things like discipline or whatever. But they're joint second right now, Chelsea. And as Janusz said, LME, we'll get to Villa in a second, because as a Villa fan, I know you'll have thoughts about this. But Enzo Maresca has come out in the pre-game press conference and pre-game as well to the TV interviewers and said, don't make us title contenders. As Janusz said, he said it might be something next year, but he's trying to downplay what they are. And the reason he said don't say we're title contenders is he believes his team is still a bit naive and inconsistent during some games. In this game, Villa had chances and Sanchez had some good saves. Does he have a point with what he's saying about his team?
Yeah, I mean, he has a point, mainly because I think he wants to lower expectations, especially in his debut season as manager for Chelsea. He is a detailed-centric, very realistic, has been around the block type of person to know exactly what to do. I'm sure maybe the message in the dressing room is slightly different given the players' confidence, but that's exactly what he should be saying. Listen, let's not get carried away here. We're about to enter the busiest period in the Premier League. We want to keep going. And as you mentioned, it's not like Chelsea were perfect today. There were opportunities for Aston Villa. We'll get to them in a second. But I think it's the right messaging for Enzo Maresca to say, this is a team in progression. We are doing very well, but let's keep going, because I think that's the ultimate message for all of them. Having said all that, they were brilliant today, and we've been waxing lyrical about Chelsea all season, especially because it's it's Maresca's first campaign with the Blues. But I think there's also other things, other factors that are helping Chelsea, and I think this is where Enzo Maresca really deserves even more credit. The fact that he welcomed a huge squad, and we were almost making fun of it in the preseason. And now Maresca is saying to himself, okay, I'm going to balance this, and I'm going to make sure that everybody knows what they do. He puts on a different lineup in the Conference League. Players like Cole Palmer can rest and really focus on the Premier League, and this is exactly what you see. But ultimately, today's win was exemplification of what you've seen throughout the season. A very focused Chelsea, a very detail-centric Chelsea who knows what to do with the ball and off the ball, and it's all down so far to that great manager. He's done wonders with him.
Great finish for the opening goal. Nico Jackson inside 10 minutes. Is he starting to make a few people eat their words, Janusz?
Mine, to begin with. Right now, long ago here, I was saying, that I thought that Christopher Nkunku was maybe more or a cleaner finisher, and I wanted to get for him to get a chance. Obviously, he's scoring goals, not necessarily in different competitions as well. But I always saw Mark, and you'd know that, right? And LME as well from Spain. I thought of him as more of that left-sided player. I envisioned him playing there, perhaps, because Mudryk didn't pan out. Of course, Pedro Neto came this time, but I just thought that maybe that would be his best position and best way of playing. But look, I mean, he's proven that he's got everything, right? I mean, you look look at him playing back to goal, the way he drops in the midfield, the way he turns and immediately offers himself to go behind the back four, back three, whatever it may be. Good in the air, timing. I mean, today that goal of the post, I mean, it wasn't easy, right? That ball kind of bouncing a little bit high, delivery. I think there might have been a slight deflection as well, his reaction. So he's certainly in the rich vein of form. But I think, if anything, what he's showing is that he's a bit of a complete player. And I don't know if I thought of him that way.
Enzo Fernandez starting to add goals as well. I mean, he's always had them in his locker. He just hasn't scored that many for Chelsea up until recently, LME. And nice little assist from Cole Palmer. Good finish. That was pretty much the goal that probably put this game beyond Villa's reach. And then Cole Palmer scores a stunning third goal. So, yeah, we've waxed lyrical about Chelsea today. They were excellent. Yeah, they gave up one or two chances. But Aston Villa, if Unai Emery tells his players before the game, this is a Champions League tie. I mean, the way that they've kind of been this season, they've been outstanding in the Champions League, but that's been at the expense of the Premier League form. How do you try and ensure that your Premier League form is better and your Champions League form is maintained?
Well, it's very difficult. This is a situation where Aston Villa right now and the Unai Emery are dealing the same issues similar to what Newcastle dealt with, right? And Janusz is correct. I think the European overwhelming schedule, specifically in the Champions League, specifically in a new format, right, where you have to play new teams every single time, is definitely something. I think Douglas Luiz's absence is a factor. I think that today also showed that this midfield was run rugged, and I actually lay a little blame on Unai Emery here, because the starting lineup against Juventus was almost exactly the same as today. And somebody that admires Unai Emery as much as I do, I have a big criticism there, because somebody like Morgan Rogers needs a break. It's been the last 3-4 matches. Clearly, he's not the same. Yuri Tillemans was terrible today. And I can go on and on. And I think that, yes, obviously, the demands of Champions League football is required here, and it's going to be difficult. Remember, Aston Villa is coming to the Champions League for the first time in 41 years, so it's a different situation. But I do think, though, that there needs to be more of a policy of rotation. Maybe not necessarily with starting players, but you got to take them out early. And Juventus, even though offensively we're not showing as much, are a very good defensive team, and it demanded a lot from Aston Villa on Wednesday night. And then you have to face a Chelsea who, as I mentioned, is fresh, because it's a totally different team from the Conference League. They also love to counter and be physical and be in your face. And over time, there were so many self-inflicted wounds. As wonderful as Chelsea were today, Villa were terrible. And it's part because of the European responsibilities, but I also lay blame a little bit on Unai Emery here. I don't think Morgan Rogers should have started. I think there should have been more of a rotation. But, it's what happens. It's the responsibility that you have to have when you play in the Champions League. So let's see what happens. But here comes December, because, now it's Brentford at Villa Park on Wednesday, and the games will come thick and fast. So hopefully there will be some kind of reflection, but we'll see.
I see bigger problem. I mean, and I've talked about it even when things were right, because to me, Unai Emery is that type of manager. When things are right, everything's right. But what if they go wrong? I've mentioned that many months ago. And you've mentioned Enzo Maresca being detail-oriented, right? Unai Emery is one as well. But the problem that he has is that he's not flexible. He's never been a flexible manager. I have never seen it from him. That's why I have many doubts, right? In terms of formation, in terms of changing things a little bit, like we saw, for example, even the 3 in the back from Chelsea, or 4, with Caicedo coming inside, maybe in 4s, but I think we don't see that. On top of that, he's an ideology man, right? The high line playing out of the back, and you pay the price for that. That's not the Juventus game today. Emi Martinez, for as many big saves he's made, that playing out of the back today, needed to send flowers for one of those goals that he played out of the back. He made, I don't want to focus on him because he's the least of the problems, because Emi Martinez is a wonderful goalkeeper. But the fact, remember, when we talked about Unai Emery, the fact that he's not close with the players, he never talks to them by his own admission. And those trainings are 2.5 hours and 3 hours where you basically stand for the most part, because he's telling you the way to move and how to move and all that. That is good when you're winning all the time. Now, when you're losing, this is going to be a big test. It's already a massive test for Unai Emery. And again, I'm not taking anything away from him because we've seen what he's done in Spain, Sevilla, Villarreal. But my point is that there's a lot more to be questioned about Unai Emery sometimes, because these are the times that you show it. And this is a long spell, LME. No, I mean, 8 games alone. I mean, look where they are. Look where they were. And when we were all excited about Aston Villa in the Premier League. I mean, this is a massive, massive drop. I mean, we're going to be talking about Manchester City.
Hold on. Let's put this. LME, hold on. Let's put this into context. Aston Villa are 12th. Manchester United have been in crisis most of the season. They're 9th. What does that tell us?
Are you asking me?
Who wants to pick up? You were very
well, no, I mean, I want to put a little bit of context. First of all, it's not true that Unai Emery doesn't talk to players. That's not true. I know firsthand from the club just how much Unai Emery does in the training ground. I think that he's right in terms of stubbornness, because I think that there's a certain way that Unai Emery likes to play. But I think we have to remember here, and you're comparing it to Manchester United. Aston Villa is a club that not long ago was in the Championship. That when Unai Emery arrived to Aston Villa, they were on the waters of relegation. So to completely criticize everything that Emery has done throughout this whole thing is not correct. I think that right now he is dealing with the toughest mountain he's had to climb with Villa. And I do agree with Janusz that sometimes it's because of his own stubbornness to have a strategy that doesn't want to change can be a problem. I think that today, for example, the constant need to play from the back when you know Chelsea is right there in your face is such a blind way to go. But I think that Villa will get out of this. I just don't know if they'll get top 4 because the added element of Champions League football is a problem. Manchester United has culturally for a very long time been an issue. And the ownership were always struggling with the whole relationship of the manager. We've seen it over and over again. That's not what's happening at Villa. There's a complete sync of everybody in belief of what's happening. Now, it's a massive issue right now with Villa, and they have to figure it out. Can they get top 4? It's very, very difficult. But you mentioned the table. Listen, it's extremely, extremely tight. So if there is a way to climb up and get some points in this December, then we'll be better for it. But no doubt about it, this is the toughest moment for Unai Emery, and he deserves a lot of criticism from my side in terms of not being able to rotate enough. But it's not to say that, it's going to be a black hole that he can't get out.
Bigger picture here before we move on to Manchester United's comfortable win over Everton. It doesn't really matter if he does or he doesn't talk to the players. The bottom line is he's been unable so far to find a way to be competitive in the Premier League while being competitive in the Champions League. And one of the main reasons for that is a man called Ollie Watkins, because he was scoring these goals last season. This time it hits the backside of Robert Sanchez instead of going under him into the back of the net. The goals flow from Ollie Watkins, and it's a different story. I think right now it's a case of don't panic just yet.